Okay. I think I have it. I
Morning. So definitely quiet. I'd say good morning.
We're all quietly considering possible questions.
I'm just trying to stay awake.
I should be. Plus we're at 10:30 last night.
Why?
Well, Thursday night got a print.
No.
You know, we're dealing with whatever, but
So can't you come
everything I
in
read online, I've got to redo, kind of recast it for print.
Can't you come in late Fridays then? Or do you have to just come
No,
in
we have a
for
9
briefings?
a.m. briefing.
No.
You have to come in just for the briefings, really, on Fridays?
Yeah, but the good news is if they're not trying to break something Friday afternoon, I can bolt out of here and drive south. Take a 3-hour drive after I get over Friday.
Where?
At home, Newport News, Virginia.
Do you live up here during the week?
Yeah,
Where do you live?
my brother's house in Kensington.
Oh. Wow. That's a complicated life.
It'll be for about a year.
And then what happens?
Oh, then I'm gonna buy an $800,000 house in McLean and
Of
move,
course.
move into the area, become a tax-paying regional citizen.
She didn't tell anyone.
Instead of you're looking for a fix-me-up that I can modernize.
Yeah.
My friend is selling a house in Capitol Hill.
So where?
On Capitol Hill?
Fashion.
I think we'll live downtown.
And it looked kind of weird. And
Wife's a country girl, she's
we found out that she had one.
taking seniors to get used to
I know,
the
I'm
way
here.
the neighborhoods we are.
You want to sit next to
It's
me?
so no, New City.
No, I could do it.
These guys can't get it right.
I'm used to it too. I go to Tennessee back.
But anyway, yeah, she didn't tell anyone until, I don't know why she decided to come out and say no, she had cancer.
Pretty neat.
That's a great
Yeah, it's completely in remission apparently.
I was talking about Kate.
No, Ann Thompson, one of the correspondents at work, and she didn't tell anyone, she just kind of was gone for a while.
We know about Kate. I know.
Her baby's
I heard she got sick.
I don't know. Why?
It's cis, right? Mother and cis.
I hear I don't know anything about that.
I'm told it was the size of an orange.
I'll let you do. What are we doing? Lowering the electric. Good morning. I apologize for being a minute late. And it looks like we have General Gaskin up on the screen there. Let me just see if he can hear us okay, too. General Gaskin, this is Brian Whitman at the Pentagon.
Good morning.
Brian Whitman at the Pentagon. Can you hear me okay?
You hear me? I can hear you fine. Can you hear me? I'm not sure you can hear me. Brian, can you hear me? Nothing.
But we're getting with a lot of static, so we're going to try to let them work through some of that, but we're going to get started here too.
Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
In general. Again, welcome, and this morning it's my privilege to introduce to you somebody that we haven't had in this room, and it's Major General Walt Gaskin, who is the commander of Multinational Forces West and the II Marine Expeditionary Force Forward. General Gaskin's tour began in Iraq in February of this year, and he is at Camp Fallujah, where he is providing us with this operational update. General, what I'd like to do is just turn it over to you so that you can kind of give us an overview of what you've been doing, and then we'll turn to some questions here.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to inform you on the changing dynamics of Anbar province. I have a short update I've prepared, and I'll be ready to take your questions at the conclusion. As you know, I'm responsible for the coalition forces in Anbar, and I've assumed command of multinational forces approximately 2 months ago. With that as a background, I'd like to share with you my impressions and explain to you how we are faring in Anbar. My assessment is that Anbar is in transition, both politically and militarily. When I use the term transition, I mean that the Iraqis are taking on roles and responsibility that used to be solely performed by coalition forces. Our strategy of clear, hold, and build, combined with an energized governmental and tribal engagement, is beginning to bear fruit, seen in decreased attack trends, increased recruiting for Iraqi security forces, and growing increase in economic commerce, along with a noticeable shift in the public sentiment of al-Qaeda in Iraq from tolerance to open hostility. Politically, the governance of Anbar is beginning to function independently. As we saw a couple of weeks ago, the governor of Anbar hosted Prime Minister Maliki in what could be only described as a historic meeting. This is a large step in the right direction for reconciliation and reconstruction. We cannot overemphasize the significance of having the Prime Minister come to an overwhelmingly Sunni capital of Ramadi. An important event occurred in Ramadi while the Prime Minister was visiting was the first locally held meeting of the Anbar Provincial Council in 11 months. The council adjourned last spring from Anbar because of security concerns. This dialogue makes me very hopeful for the future of the province. A tangible product of this dialogue can be seen in the record number of Iraqi men joining the military and the police. The sons of Anbar are signing up to protect the future of Iraq. They see al-Qaeda in Iraq for what it truly is, a plague on their nation, leaving death and destruction in their wake. Anbar is a tribal society where local sheiks are highly influential. It is with their permission and courageous leadership that the men of Anbar joined the Iraqi army and the police. Our tribal engagement strategy is entirely consistent with the principles we stand for: human rights, rule of law, due process, and support for legitimate provincial and national government. This government and the security forces that defend it is the greatest threat to al-Qaeda. With the support of the local tribal leaders The capabilities of the security forces are growing. The terrorists are finding it increasingly difficult to operate and hide within the civilian population. Al-Qaeda realizes this, and that is why they are stepping up their attacks against the Iraqi police and army units. There have been approximately 400 attacks against the Iraqi police in Anbar since the beginning of the year. But what is important to recognize is that the police aren't backing down or deserting posts. The Iraqi police, in conjunction with the Iraqi army, are planning their own operations and conducting targeted raids on Al-Qaeda in their safe havens. The search for security and stability has led to the formation of temporary units called emergency response units, commonly referred to as ERUs. These units are sanctioned by the Iraqi government and fall under the jurisdiction of the Minister of Interior. There are additional forces designed to protect local areas from Al-Qaeda infestation and act as an auxiliary police force. The ERUs have a manning structure of about 750 men and are supplied, equipped, and paid by the Minister of Interior. There are 3 ERUs in Ramadi where they have been vital in improving the security situation. The Minister of Interior, working with the provincial government and MNF-West, is looking to establish similar ERUs under provincial government authority in other cities to include Fallujah, Heat, Haditha, and other places. It is this type of overwhelming support by the Anbaris that necessitate the creation of a police training facilities in all Anbar itself. I am pleased to announce that the construction is currently underway for Anbar Police Academy in Habanera, which is between Ramadi and Fallujah. This facility will increase the total number of police serving in Anbar by 500 to 1,000 a month. This police academy is a provincial and national effort to alleviate the need for Anbar men to receive their police training in Jordan or other academies that are north and themselves outside of the maximum capacity here in Anbar. Iraqis will ultimately teach the classes and run the administration of the Anbar Police Academy with the minimal assistance from the coalition forces. We anticipate the academy will be up and running by May. I refer to the emergency response units as temporary. Some of the men who are joining these units are farmers or factory workers who are choosing to fight Al-Qaeda. Once the terrorist threat has been defeated, these brave men will be able to choose to return to their former professions to attend the Habani Police Academy and receive training required to become full-time Iraqi police officers. There are currently 2,500 members of the various ERUs, and there are 13,200 policemen and 13,000 Iraqi Army soldiers serving throughout Anbar, alongside approximately 35,000 men and women of the Multinational Force West. Over the coming months, the coalition troop strength will rise and fall with the coming and going of our surge battalions. These increased forces, along with the Iraqi Army and police forces, are working in unison with the Multinational Division Baghdad to ensure the success of the Baghdad security plan. Multi-Forces West is supporting the effort in this plan, and as such is integrating its operation to best support the coalition and Iraqi forces engaged in Baghdad. By interdicting and disrupting terrorists, we will help reduce the level of sectarian violence in Baghdad. Peace and stability in Iraq, the legitimate government will enjoy the full support and participation of Iraqi citizens living and working in Anbar and set on a path of economic reconstruction. Assisting MNF-West in this transition is the provincial reconstruction teams headed by the Department of State, in this case, Mr. Jim Soriano. The PRT is our right hand when it comes to the governance and economic development issues. Currently, there are about 12 persons in that team here in Anbar. However, I am pleased to say there will soon be additional 3 construction teams in Anbar. PRT role will be to continue to expand as the security in the province improves, and will focus on increasing the capacity of local governance and development of a stronger relationship between the provincial government and the government of Iraq. As I stated earlier, I am hopeful for the future and mindful that these developments will not have been possible without the skill ingenuity, and sacrifice of our men and women in uniform and their families at home to provide us with their steadfast support to allow us to do our mission. At this time, I'll be glad to take any questions that you may have.
Well, thank you for that overview, General, and we'll get started right here with Pam.
General Gaskin, this is Pam Hess with UPI. Could you narrate for us what's going on in Fallujah? I think 2 weeks ago there was a massacre at the police station where police officers were beheaded, and then I think you all conducted a counterattack. How related is this to Baghdad, and what's the state now in Fallujah?
I think you have to understand that Fallujah, there was no massacre at the police station, but in Fallujah you have to see that what we have established, the 2nd Iraqi Brigade of the 1st Iraqi Division is actually in the town of Fallujah. Surrounding that town is a infantry battalion from the coalition forces. And inside the city as well is approximately 500, soon to be 1,000 policemen there. The idea is to allow the policemen to be able to create stability, trust. They recognize who lives in that city, who operates in that city, and they have the confidence of people because they are Anbaris, they are Fallujahs, and they are Sunni. Now, the Al-Qaeda realizes that this is a threat to the way they like to see things go. And they have chosen the IP, or the Iraqi police, as their targets. And we have seen several cases where they have attacked police stations, and they are using the IDs, the IEDs, the vehicle-borne IDs, the vests or suicide bombers as a manner in which to attack these. A couple of days ago, we saw the attack in Fallujah and the coordinated attack on both the entry control points and as well as the joint headquarters of the Iraqi police and the Iraqi army. But what is important about this and what is significant is the Iraqis were able to repel those. The Iraqis were able to jointly call in for support for the coalition forces, and the Iraqis themselves were able to, again, calm the folks and the people in that town of Fallujah to the security that is represented by their government.
I'm sorry, just to follow up, I was under the impression that there were, I think, 9 police that were beheaded when their station was attacked. Is that not the case? I thought I read that in an MNF-W press release, but I could be wrong. And also I've heard when I was over there that, but after I was out of your AO, that one of the sheikhs in Fallujah had called Sheikh Sitar to see if he could organize amongst his sheikhs what Sitar had done in Ramadi. Is that true?
No, first of all, there was no police beheaded in Fallujah. Now, there is murder and intimidation, and we, as you probably got that press release, as we moved out into a calmer area, we discovered some torture houses where there were, in fact, members, Iraqis that were beheaded as a part of that campaign. But for the city of Fallujah itself, it wasn't. As for the sheikhs in Fallujah, seeking out the sheikhs in Ramadi, as you know, the SAA is in Ramadi under Sheikh Sitar, and they have a very robust sort of a defense and mechanism. And those are, and what we've seen is interaction between sheikhs for security and as it relates to the ERUs. But that collaboration is a good thing because it points to the fact that they want to get rid of Al-Qaeda and that the sheikhs are in fact getting involved in it. We have had, when the Prime Minister came out to visit, we've had sheikhs from all over Anbar all come together, and they are all talking about the security of their cities and security of their towns in order to allow them to have a coordinated effort against Al-Qaeda.
John.
Hi, Jonathan Carl with ABC News. 2 questions, one very general and one specific. Specific one, what are you seeing and how concerned are you regarding these use of chlorine bombs? Is this a new trend? And secondly, there's been a lot of talk around here about timetables for withdrawal and the like. What is your sense out in Anbar of what would happen if U.S. troops were to leave, to set a timetable very near in the future for complete withdrawal? What would happen in Anbar?
Okay, first on the chlorine bombs. We have seen that as a technique by the Al-Qaeda. What you have to understand is that the chlorine bombs have more of a psychological effect than they do a killing effect or a effect, but it will definitely take and add the type of IEDs that will allow them to scare and intimidate the Anbaris. And I think you see that those attacks have been mainly aimed at the IP, which they consider their greatest threat, in order to intimidate them not to come to work, intimidate them not to continue the good work they're doing as far as bringing peace and stability within the cities. I think the fact that they are staying on the job, I think the fact that they have allowed the Al-Qaeda to be pushed out of the cities because of their work is a good thing. So although they're using the chlorine bombs, it has a more of a psychological impact than a destruction type of impact. Your second question was about
The top of the time.
let me tell you how I see for Anbar. And as you know, Anbar is different from any other 17, 18 provinces in Iraq. It is predominantly Sunni. The main threat that we have is Al-Qaeda Iraq. And what we see is that once we gain the peace and stability into the major cities, and then we can work on by pushing Al-Qaeda out of the cities by creating three important aspects: getting the IPs, or Iraqi police, into the cities, getting the IA, Iraqi army, in support of the police, getting the coalition forces in overwatch, getting the governance going by getting a mayor, a provincial and municipal governorship as far as the councils that will actually connect to create economic development and governance. When you do that, you have to have persistent presence in those areas. And when you establish things that we've seen in Fallujah, Ramadi, Al-Qaim, Ruthba, Haditha, all of those areas have those factors that I talked about, and we see stability on the rise. What is important is that we have gotten the Iraqis involved in that process through their recruitment efforts and the contribution of young Iraqis to the military and to the police. The reason that I am able to now move out into the areas that are outside of the cities, such as the Zaidan, Karma, in between Fallujah and Ramadi, north of the Euphrates River in the east and east of the Euphrates River in the west, is because I have a number of forces that are able to do that. We have to give the Iraqis the time to develop the capacity to do all the things that they need to do. We're in partnership with them now. We're in overwatch in some cases, and in some areas we've actually given them territory for which they control. But to remove those forces would be premature and ill-advised, because they are now in a rapid stage of development, and I think we will see great results as they've been able to do the things they need to do. And that is in conjunction, too, with the tribal engagement, because everything that happens in this province is tribal in nature.
Can I just follow up? What would happen then, in your view, if you announced right now, we said we're going to begin pulling troops out in, say, 6 months, and we're going to have, basically withdraw all of our combat troops from Anbar within a year? What would happen to your interactions with these various groups if they knew at a date certain American forces would be leaving?
I think, if we said or announced that we were going to withdraw forces, that the Iraqis would make every effort to adjust. The fact of the matter is, you cannot buy, remove experience. You have to earn it. You have to live it. You have to be there to work through it. And they are doing that. But that developmental process requires time, both in association with us and doing it themselves. But that requires a timetable that's dependent on the developmental stage of which they are. If you look at the two divisions, for example, that are in Anbar, one in the west and one in the east. The one in the east is a lot further along and capable of handling a lot of COIN operations. The one in the west is getting there as we increase the number of its roles and its strengths and capability. But the capacity to do what we want requires time. And that would be, I think, the greatest detriment of removing those forces prematurely, removing our forces away from them.
Joe, go ahead.
This is Joe Tabit, sir, with Al Hurra. Do you think you have enough troops in your area to maintain the security?
You came in a little weak. I think your question was, do I think I have enough forces? Was that your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, given the mission, and the mission that I have now is to interdict those accelerants, those insurgents that are coming into the country, mainly using the Euphrates River Valley as a means for coming in. In addition, my mission is to be a supporting plan for the Baghdad security plan and to eliminate any of those that would interfere with that process. Given the surge battalions, I have enough forces now, as I stated earlier in my opening statements, to not only do my enduring missions of security along the Euphrates River, put persistent presence in those 6 major cities that I listed, as well as interdict those accelerants who will come in or out of Baghdad in order to ensure that that Baghdad security plan operates successfully. So given those missions, I have enough forces to do that.
Just to follow up, what is the total number that of your troops in Anbar, in the west of Iraq?
I can't.
I can give it a try for you. The question was the number of forces that you have in your province, in your sector.
I have a coalition force about 35,000, and Iraqi forces totally, well, this is with Iraqi police and Iraqi army, about 27,000.
Sir, this is Kristen Roberts with Reuters. I'm hoping you can give us an idea about the progress the Iraqi security forces are making. How long will it be before they're able to, I suppose, stand up on their own, both the Iraqi police and the Iraqi army forces? How much longer do you anticipate having to play a coordinating, if not a lead role?
If I understood your question, it was how long do you think before the Iraqi army will be able to stand up on its own or be capable of conducting regular operations? Is that the question?
As well as the police forces.
It was only a year ago when we had so few Iraqi forces, both IP and IA, in Anbar. We have 10 times in the case of the police and about triple the case of the Iraqi army in that area. Now, what I would like to discuss more than number is capabilities and capacity. The capacity to conduct COIN operations, the capacity to protect your borders, the capacity to interdict and defeat Al-Qaeda. Those capacities are developed, and every military, regardless of nationality, has to train and develop over time to do that. And the expectations, matter of fact, I'm very pleased at how far they've come in a year, and I think they are making rapid progress toward that. But the difference in this Army and this police is that they're making progress while under fire. Most armies train and go into an operation or at war having been trained, so the development for them is twofold. They are in contact and training and developing, and I think they're doing remarkable. What has been interesting to me is that because they are now, as far as support of the tribal engagement, they feel it necessary to defend their homeland, and they think of themselves as Iraqis, and that they are joining the military and the police and a large numbers. That large numbers initially is just basically trained policemen, Shirka, or Iraqi Shunta men, and they have to, over time, train up to be soldiers within units, in units with capabilities to do counterinsurgency operations. We have a plan that we are working through that with them. Some, like I said, are more developed than others. The division in the east is further along. It's an older division. The new division in the west is just beginning. And although partnered with coalition forces, it will require, in my opinion, a longer time for them to develop than that in the east.
Lisa.
This is Lisa Burgess with Stars and Stripes. General, are you noticing any AQI coming down from Baghdad being pushed out as the Baghdad security plan is moving them into your sector?
I fully expect that they will be, as they leave the Baghdad, as they clamp down on that, they will move into areas that we have determined to be up in our northeast portion of my sector. And I suspect historically they have used those areas to have cache sites, training sites, safe haven sites, and the things that I'm doing now is to interdict those sites. So I fully expect them to return to those that just don't go to ground and try to wait out to see what this surge will mean. But my job is to make sure that they aren't able to participate in or go back if they come out.
Who has had one? Gordon.
General, it's Gordon Leupold from the Christian Science Monitor. I wonder if you could give us a sense about your detainee operations. Between you and the Iraqis, how many folks are you rounding up and then detaining for periods of time, and then what do you do with those people? How many do you have, and what do you do with them?
Well, we're talking about two different systems for detainees. If you're looking at the number of detainees that I have, you know, I've got maybe 200 and 250 detainees at various levels, and that we are doing a lot for as forensic evidence now to forward them through the detainee process and right into Baghdad. But with the oncoming of the IPs and their ability to do criminal detainees, those who are just part of the criminal element, not as much as a part of the insurgents element, we are seeing that their capacity is growing, and as far as the numbers that they have, and we're working with helping them build facilities to give those detainees. The other thing with that is the judicial system for detainees is not out here in Anbar, and we are currently working through the Minister of Justice and through the chain of command in order to help within their government establish a means for trying those. As you recall, a number of the judges were either murdered or they left the country for their own safety of them and their families. So having a judicial system out here, especially the further west you go, is non-existent. So having all of these policemen now working within the rule of law and being able to round up those that are criminal actors, in addition to those who are insurgents and are against the Iraqi government, the Anbari government, has increased the numbers that we have detained. And that in itself is good news, but it also creates a problem for us with the total number of detainees that we will see. Now, given the insurgents, we will see this surge, we will see a larger number, and we are increasing the capacity for putting insurgents away as well.
Just real quick, can you just tell us how many detainee facilities are you helping to build in Anbar?
Well, remember the facilities that we're looking at in Anbar, not with ones withstanding the ones we have here at my headquarters for moving on to Baghdad and Cropper for larger numbers. The facilities that we are helping with the Iraqis is the jails that they can take local criminals in, and we are helping that throughout the province. We are helping them with their building of police stations, joint command centers, detainment centers, so that they can actually get the criminals off the street and those who threaten the peace and stability in the major cities. And it has really helped because the Iraqis themselves feel better when they have this criminal element off the street. That has allowed us to get better intelligence on who's out there, and has also given them a sense of a good way of life. The kids can go to school. You can see the marketplaces opening and flourishing. So we have had a number of facilities that we've built to help with that. That's not to say that we still need to have a judicial system that allow us to send these criminals away for longer periods of time, and that's what you will see, that there are a number from the Corps and from multinational forces are building the larger facilities for permanent detainment.
General, we have reached the end of our time, and I want to give you an opportunity, if you have any closing comments, to provide those before we bring it to a close.
Okay, I'd just like to say in closing that I am very, very optimistic about what is happening in Anbar. Over the last year, and the forces out here, the coalition forces, have laid an outstanding foundation that allow us to actually move towards stability and provincial Iraqi control in Anbar. What I've seen is a couple of things that have made it a reality, I think, for Anbars. One is a tribal engagement. The sheiks and all of their sub-tribes, clan, and families understand that they need to be a part of the political process that will connect them with the national government in Iraq, and they are rallying to that. The second thing is that they realize that they have to have the young Iraqis join the military, join the police force, and they are doing that. That combination of standing up their own governments, both at the provincial, municipal, and city levels, the new mayors that are being appointed, the police chiefs that are being appointed, and eventually they will have a provincial election out here in Anbar. I can see and envision Anbar moving toward the progress and eventually self-sufficiency connected with this government under the rule of law. Thank you.
Well, General, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. We appreciate it, and hopefully we'll have another opportunity down the road to talk to you again. Thank you.
Look forward to it. Thank you.